And I have to, so very warm welcome. And we are ready to start today's debate. We already assembled some questions, actually. And of course, I think the main topic today will be the war that is currently waging in Ukraine, but we will also address other questions. And first, I would like to give the word to the headmaster of this school, Mr. Claude Heiser, for just a couple of welcome words. And we are very grateful for the Athénée to organize this debate today.
Okay. So, dear students, ladies and gentlemen, it is my great pleasure and honor to welcome you here, especially the Honorable President of the European Parliament, Mrs. Roberta Metsola. In my capacity as this school's principal, I strongly support this non-formal activity, allowing young people to exchange ideas on global and intercultural issues within the framework of a discussion with a high representative. Such activities prove that education can hardly be reduced to a mere imparting of knowledge and values, but that knowledge and values must also be put into practice within a school community. The presence of the President of the European Parliament, as well as your attendance, dear students and teachers, provides us an opportunity to do just that. The active participation of so many of our students in the model European Parliament, the model United Nations, the Athénée's Debating Club, and, last but not least, the success of our new G-section classes, with their special focus on geopolitics and international relations, clearly demonstrate a genuine interest of our students in the problems and challenges of our society, thereby counteracting an accusation that is frequently leveled at young people, namely that of their supposed inactivity and disenchantment with politics. Shaping the future requires a critical examination of the present, hence the necessity for young people to show a genuine interest in their fellow human beings and in political matters of current importance. In these challenging times of social unrest and increased political instability due to COVID-19 and the impact resulting from violent conflict worldwide, it is more important than ever to kindle and nurture young people's involvement in the political and democratic process. That is why I would like to offer a special thank you to Mrs. Metsola for being with us today and for providing us with the opportunity for the ensuing discussion. I wish you all a very constructive and fruitful debate. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Thank you very much, Claude Heiser, for these warm welcome words. We are very happy to be here all together and have this opportunity, as Mr. Heiser said, to do political participation and to put democracy into practice. And I'm very happy to welcome the newly elected President of the European Parliament, Ms. Roberta Metsola from Malta. I think you are the youngest ever President of... We shall see today, but I think it will be a young debate and a very fresh debate. You started in the European Parliament in the year 2013, but before that you were already working in Brussels, I think, and yes, you were newly elected now by the beginning of the year. I read that you were also a strong defender, let's say, of the rule of law and of our values, which have been mentioned already before you arrived. I think this is one of the topics we would also like to address today. And may I give you the word just for a short introduction, maybe, to today's topics. We heard that mainly we will focus on, of course, the situation in Ukraine, but we can also address other topics. There is a microphone right behind you.
Do I need it? Do I need the microphone?
I think it would be better, yes, also for the broadcasting, actually.
No, I'm not going to sit. So, hello, everyone. Nice to meet you. I'm Roberta. I'd like you to call me by my first name, please. And I'm not president or surname or something. I'm Roberta. I am from Malta. I am 43 years old. I have 4 boys. I am married to someone from Finland, so the complete other side of Europe. But when I was growing up, there was no north, south, east, west. There was just Europe. And I wanted my country to join a group of countries like yours that had been for a long time already in the European Union, because I wanted our rights to be protected. I wanted our life to improve. I wanted our obligations and our governments to make sure that they protected citizens. I wanted to make sure that politics is used as a force for good and not as a force for bad. So I'd like also tonight, this is the last event I have before I go to Brussels, so you have a last opportunity for you to ask any question you want. There are no bad questions. Even if you think it's not a good idea, just ask it if you are curious. I will answer everything. If I don't know something, I will tell you. I don't know it, but just ask. First, I'll ask you, however, so how old are you, more or less? And isn't it really difficult to wait until 5 p.m. on a random Tuesday to meet the President of the European Parliament? No? Were you asked to say that by your teachers? No? I was just thinking if I was 15, 16, I don't know whether I would stay in the university. It's okay. Well done. Thanks for being here. You know, when I got elected a little bit, almost 2 months ago, if someone had asked me when I was your age whether this was ever possible, I would have said, no way. These kind of positions are only taken and are assumed by men from bigger countries. I say bigger, not big, because I don't consider my country to be small. But men from bigger countries. In the history of the European Parliament, there have only been 3 women presidents. In 1979, do you remember her name? Simone Veil from France. Next one was in 1999. Do you remember her name? Nicole Fontaine from France. And in 2022, we have the 3rd female president of the European Parliament. And I say this because when I got elected, I made a promise that there will not be another 20 years before another woman is elected president of the European Parliament. How many of you would like to become a member of the European Parliament one day?
Around 10 of us are already ambassadors of the European Parliament, at least 10.
Good,
So
that's
we
the
are
first
on
step.
our way.
I would like to leave this room by making sure that all of you might want to become a member of the European Parliament. Do you know why? Because being in politics is a nice thing. You might be told, oh, these politicians are all the same. They do this, they do that. No. I would like you to look at politics as a force for good. I would like you to make sure you vote. I would like you to make sure that you always have a right to choose who represents you. Because if you don't, somebody else will choose for you. You might not like what you see. There have been moments in the past where if you look at decisions that were taken, you wonder, is this because there is a desire to destroy the project of Europe? Sometimes we came scaringly close to that. I would like to look at the future, at you, and make sure that I can rely on you, and not just be ambassadors because you can go to Strasbourg and sit in the European Parliament, big room with the blue chairs, and say, I'm on seated number, whatever, I spoke about this. I don't only want you to do that because you can go on Instagram and say that I'm a European Parliament ambassador. You use Instagram, right? Not something else. Because once I went to a school in another country, and I went Facebook, and I was like, oh, you're so old, so. If there's something else you use, you tell me, okay? I don't use TikTok. I promised my children I will never be on TikTok. because it's too embarrassing. I also sometimes, they make me promise not to speak French because they think my accent is terrible. But I understand French, so you can ask me anything in French and I will try to answer, okay? We also, maybe we should discuss media, journalists, very important. Non-discrimination, many people, young people that do not have in Europe what you have here. Many, more than you think, more than you think. Many rights we still need to fight for, a lot, okay? This is what we're here for. I hope I'm not the only member of the European Parliament who will speak to you. You need to hold your members of the European Parliament to account and you say, listen, do you vote at 16 in Luxembourg or at 18? 18. When you get to vote, you need to hold your politicians to account. And when you also speak to your families, when you go home, to your friends, make sure they hold their politicians to account. And then I would like us to speak about Ukraine, but we will speak about it also in a practical way, because it's not only about what we see on TV, but it's about what all of you can do today.
Thank you so much. So I would suggest we jump right into our debate. I mean, I had a question, Roberta, when you said when you were young, actually, you couldn't feel the boundaries in Europe. You couldn't feel the borders. I found that very interesting. Maybe we can touch upon this as well to see if you think that the situation has changed, if it maybe has not only become better. I would be very interested in this. But let's first give the word to our students. And I think we will start with the topic we saw, I mean, already earlier, we saw a speech by President Zelensky. And at this very moment, we know that there are bombs falling on Kiev, sent by the Russian army, which is a very absurd situation. It's probably as absurd as it could possibly get. So this is the world we are living in nowadays. And we would like to hear from you. What are your thoughts? What are the questions you are asking yourselves? So who would be yes. Can I ask you to please come up to the mic? And then anybody who has a question related to the questions we are about to hear, if I can also ask you to come up and join our debate.
Okay.
If you can just say your name as well to introduce
I'm Eric Nosen. I'm from Luxembourg. I'm 18 years old. And I'm going to address the elephant in the room, the Ukraine crisis. Why are we still importing Russian gas and oil and thereby indirectly financing Putin's war on Ukraine?
Thank you, Eric.
Actually, I have a couple of questions. Can I ask them after I've posed this one? Or
are they related to the first one or not directly? Because
not
otherwise,
directly.
Doesn't matter, I can jump.
Okay, but maybe somebody would like to ask something related to oil and gas as well. Could you also please come up to the mic? And don't worry, we will have time for your other questions too.
Very much. Hi, I'm Emile, and on the same topic, I'm going to ask what you think would be Europe's energy dependency plan. Because as of now, obviously, Luxembourg, as Malta, have a problem. We are a very small country, and we need to rely on energy import. How do you mean to address that on a European level? Thank you.
Sorry, can you tell me your name again?
Emile.
Emile, okay. Thank you, Eric and Emile, for opening today's debate. Maybe a third person would like to join in really quick on this topic. Yes, please.
Do you think that the energy crisis caused by the Ukraine-Russia conflict will derail the commitments the EU have made on the matter of climate change?
What's your name?
Aurelia.
Olivia.
Aurelia, yes. Thank you so much. I think, yes, with these three questions, we can actually already start discussing.
First of all, when I go to your first question, you know, one of the, if you go to my country and you mention the word Schengen, nobody will know it's a place in Luxembourg, except our teachers. But we all know that it means freedom. It means you can move from one part of Europe to another without needing to have your passports checked, without needing to be stopped. You can get a car, you can drive, tell you from our end, all the way from down south, Sicily, all the way up through Italy, all the way here, all the way up, wherever you want. That was not always like that. I remember being a student and having to stop at every single border. It was doubly difficult for me because I used to have a Maltese passport and I'd have to convince whoever was checking my passport that Malta was actually a country. And secondly, that I needed to give a reason why I was there. The minute that opened up for us is the time we could go to study in a different country, to work in a different country, to travel, to see different countries. Do you know what was you remember the first days of COVID 2 years ago? You remember. Do you know what governments did and what we did? My responsibility too. We closed the borders. We thought, there's a virus. By putting concrete blocks on the street, I'm going to stop it from transmitting from one country to another. It's that country's fault that we have it. No, what we didn't realize is that if it weren't for Europe, we would have been competing big versus small, north versus south, for ventilators, for medicine, for vaccines. What did we see instead? We saw nurses going from, and doctors going from one country to another depending on when there was help and needed. We saw Europe being able to adopt massive financial programs in order to help our societies that need to do what Aurelia, I'm never going to get your name right, Aurelia, to make that climate jump. But if it were 4 weeks ago, I think we would be back going, okay, don't worry, COVID is over. Let's go back to our, as we say, to our lines to take. When you are a minister, you come, you go to a meeting, you open your file, you have lines that are drafted for you, you read them out and you go home and tell everybody how good you were. We would probably be doing that, but we are not. Because we have realized two things. One, there is a war in 2022 in Europe. And it is being fought bravely by one country. Helped by countries that are receiving thousands and thousands and thousands of refugees every day. You have 2,500 refugees from Ukraine in Luxembourg. How many of you have met even one of them? Good. It's important. These are people who never imagined that in 2022 we would have a war in Europe. Countries nearby receiving people in a language they don't speak, when even they have difficulties economically to house, to address, to feed, to heal. These people who are fleeing a war they did not start, they did not provoke, they did not want, but they are fighting every day. And because they're doing that, we needed to respond. Because today, it's Ukraine. Tomorrow, it could be Moldova. Another day, it could be a smaller country that Russia decides, you know what, I can redraw the map a little bit. But at the same time, Emil, we are paying for it. For every tank that is destroyed, we are paying for Russia to build 4 new ones every day. Is it our fault? Is it your fault? We are late. We should have done this much earlier. We have been warned by many countries in the neighborhood who said, we are too reliant on Russian gas. We pay too much. We have not done enough to make sure we are self-sufficient. That when we look at Europe, we say, I want to buy energy from my friends. I don't want to buy energy from my enemies. But we are in a situation where we are paying for a war and buying energy from our enemy. And to be clear, when we use this word, it's a tough word to use, we need to remember there are thousands of Russians in prison because they are protesting against the war. Many, many people who we need to also send a message to that they are on the right side of history as we are. That's important. What can we do? Ultimate target, zero dependence on Russia for gas. Can it be done from today to tomorrow? No. Should we make sure that all countries can start to diversify? Yes, immediately. Is there a possibility to import energy, gas from elsewhere? Yes. Will it be painful and expensive? Yes. But democracy and freedom are priceless. And we need to make sure we know that. Because what would all this be if at the end of the day the war spills over into other countries and we would not have been able to stop it because we are arguing as to who needs to buy gas from where? But we have countries in the EU that are 100% reliant on Russian gas, 100%. Not 90 or 95, 100%. But what this has happened and what this has led to is that we are jump-starting. You know what you mean by jump-starting? It's an old word for a car when it doesn't start. But we are doing that to our innate laziness as Europe to say, don't worry, it's not our problem. Our children will handle it. Don't worry. Yes, we can ban plastic. Don't worry where it goes. We can export elsewhere as long as it's not, I don't see it. We have done that for too long. And because we have done that for too long, we are going to face extreme difficulty with a huge increase in energy prices, what you will pay at home, who takes care of you, what they will pay at home, how much they pay for fuel, and at the same time, how much we need to invest right now in different energy sources. There are countries that are very advanced on renewables. There are countries that have already started laying down the groundwork to be able to import liquefied natural gas at the moment, but ideally hydrogen-ready pipelines is what the EU is looking at investing with different parts of the world. But I want to do more on renewables because I want to make sure that I don't shift this problem to another generation with another vulnerability elsewhere in the world. With regards to, who asked me about coal and gas? Was that Eric or Emil? Someone mentioned coal and gas. Eric, you asked. As you see, the United States banned coal and oil imports. Could be done, it's a small amount, but it was symbolic. And that was important. There is a push, of course, for that to happen, but the reliance is high. And we also need to make sure that our consumers remain connected. And that if we have enough supplies at the moment to last us until end of summer, beginning of autumn, we need to be prepared for the after. So of course, you will sometimes feel disappointed. I wanted them to do more, they should do more. I hope that also your politicians will be able to tell you, yes, this we can do, but this not yet. Because we have to be able to say that. This not yet. We made a mistake. We were successful here, we failed here. If we do that, maybe by the time you are in a position to take these kind of decisions, maybe we would have moved on from there. But we need to start acting now. We are already too late.
So let's start acting and let's start our second round of this debate. Yes, could you please come up to the mic?
No one's on that side yet. Huh? No one's going to be spared here. Huh?
So, hi, Roberta. My name is Elena. And I have a question in concept of the refugees that have come to the European Union. So you have mentioned that the first thousands have come to also Luxembourg. And with these thousands are also my friends and family that have arrived. And they left their priceless things behind, their houses, cars, their whole life behind, and they've entered the European Union, and they are not even part of it. So my question is, how is the European Union willing to help these families, children, in finishing their education and helping them be safe from this war?
Thank you, Elena, for this question. And yes. If you have a question that is related, maybe also on this side, if you can already come up to the mic, that would be wonderful. Yeah.
Hello, Roberta. My name is Lena.
Lena?
Yes. And I also had a question on the refugees. Due to the current war, many people are fleeing towards the European Union. So is the European Union generally ready to support those people mentally, physically, and financially?
Thank you, Lena, for this question. And maybe I'm sure we have a third question related to this. Yes, if you could come up as well.
Hello, my name is Maya, and I'm from Poland, which is one of the countries that is most affected by the refugee crisis. And I would like to ask whether there are any long-term visions and whether Europe has the capacities to house such an unprecedented refugee crisis, as right now many of the refugees are reliant on the good hearts of the people that have taken these refugees into their homes. However, I would like to ask whether there are more long-term solutions that are being planned for in Europe. Thank you.
Thank you, Maya, as well. So we have questions by Elena, Lena, and Maya. We have seen refugees crisis before, and my personal feeling is that this time we are better prepared. But Roberta, what is your feeling?
Yeah, I think you are correct that we are better prepared, but also more politically willing to be prepared. And that's important. In the past, Europe was hesitant, maybe still will be hesitant in a similar situation. We don't realize that for a vast part of the world, Europe is that beacon of safety and a life worth living. And when they are faced with a Europe that says, no, actually, not now, or go elsewhere, go to another country, or you're not the right religion, or you don't have the right characteristics to enter, or you're not highly educated enough. That's what we've said so far to people who are desperate to enter the EU because they have no other choice. You will hear it sometimes, oh, you know, they all want to come. Yeah, because it's hard for them where they are, that their parents have no choice. You know, when you see where I come from, an island in the middle of the sea, when it's rough, it's rough. When it's cold and dark, it's cold and dark. Then you arrive to the territory of the European Union and you're told, actually, you know what? No. Or you try before to get protection, you don't know. That has been a big difficulty in our European Union. So this time it is different. Circumstances are different. The numbers are very large, huh, Maya? So what we have seen in terms of the kindness, the openness is amazing. Amazing. If you look at what we call public opinion, right? Should Ukraine enter the European Union? You asked that 4 weeks ago, the result would have been completely different. But today, I want Ukraine to be part of Europe, yes. I want Ukrainians to look to Europe and say, that's where I want to be, not elsewhere. You know, there are countries in the region that the government could fall any day because of Russian-backed parliaments. Okay? That's a danger. And we need to be able to say, with responsibility, that Ukraine and Europe is your home. Now, what do we mean when we say home? It takes money. So next week in the European Parliament, we will vote on a decision that has arrived yesterday from the European Commission, or tonight, that will trigger this assistance for refugees, that will allow for schooling, shelter. But Maya, you are right. It could be for a long time. It could be for much larger numbers. If Odessa falls, the numbers are larger. I'll give you one example. In Moldova, I went to school, my husband went to school with the Prime Minister of Moldova. So we call her Natalia. She calls me as my friend. Now she's the Prime Minister. And she called me yesterday and told me, you know, I have the capacity, even though I am in a difficult situation economically as a country, high poverty, high impact after COVID, long-standing corruption of the previous government, you can say. I could, at a stretch, welcome 20,000. That's already a lot. Do you know how many I have on ground? 103,000. So imagine us here in Luxembourg, in the European Union, telling Moldova, 103,000, you can handle it. Then don't apply for membership. Because this is what we're doing. This is what we've done. We've done this. And this is a moment, we called it in the parliament, whatever it takes moment. If we don't step up now, we will be having the effect of these scars for decades and decades. I was just in the parliament, in the Luxembourg parliament here, and there was one question about the fact that we're looking at potentially numbers that remind us of when we had a previous World War. We need to be prepared. It's going to be hard, but we need to be prepared. We are human beings, and these are our brothers fighting our war. Did I answer? Yes, mentally, physically, and financially. Physically and financially, I've said. Mentally is very important. Lena, you asked me. I'll give you an example. In Brussels, we just gave today a building for the Ukrainian representatives abroad. They're called Ukrainians abroad. We gave them, and what they have asked for is psychotherapists, mostly for the children and the women. It's very hard, very hard. But we will do that, of course. We will give it. Also, what the European Parliament has done is, because we have very good IT infrastructure, that we are helping the Ukrainian Parliament, both with hardware, so actual things that they needed, but also from a connectivity point of view, virtually, that we are helping them keep their parliament open. Because in a situation like this, the pillar of democracy is parliaments that need to continue to operate.
Thank you so much, Roberta. Let's get into our third round of questions and proposals. You may already come up maybe to one of the mics if you like. Yes, please.
My name is Emma, and I wanted to ask you if you think that...
Sorry, could you please just repeat? Emma?
Yes.
Okay, thank you.
I wanted to ask you if you think that the European map will change now or after the war, or precisely the Eastern European map. Do you think that will be changed, or will it remain?
Do you refer specifically to Ukraine, or
Yes.
even the broader region of Eastern Europe?
Ukraine.
More Ukraine, okay. Thank you, Emma.
So, hello, my name is François.
Could you maybe come just a little closer to the mic?
Sorry. You just said you want Ukraine to be part of the European Union, and I ask myself which changes this would bring about to European Union and Ukraine, of course.
Could you just repeat your name again? Sorry.
François.
François, okay. Thank you, François and Emma.
I have one more question.
Sorry, what's your name?
I'm sorry, I'm Vincent.
Vincent, thank you.
If the Ukraine would join the European Union in a sped up process, how can we be sure that Russia won't see this act as an aggression? Thank you.
Thank you, Vincent.
Is it back to me?
I think so, yes, unless we have one more question related to us. Yes, we do.
Lena, yes. So in the article 42.7 of the European Parliament, it stated that whichever European country is attacked by a non-European country, all the other European countries have to fight. It's the same as in Article 5 of the NATO. So if we would accept Ukraine in a fast process in the European Union, would that mean for us that war would be in all of Europe?
So, Emma, thanks. I'll start with you. Will the European map change? It has already changed. Where is Emma? I need to see you when there you are. Because we have a country whose territory has been, I don't have this word in English either, taken away. You know, there's a specific word I'm losing. Encouraged? No, I have it. It will come. So already that you see a country that is not in control since 2013 of its own territory because of Crimea. You already have a situation where the territorial integrity of a country is under attack. So rather than look at whether a map on the paper will change, I say that we are at real risk of a fundamental threat of a country that is carrying out an invasion with an attempt of placing puppet governments that it can control. The spirit of the Ukrainian leaders is very high and extremely upbeat. But let's make no mistake. When Putin talks about denazification, this is the problem. When he talks about don't believe what the Ukrainians tell you, disinformation is one of our biggest threats now. But I also tell you something, I will switch the argument around. You know, before Brexit, I was always asked this question. Will the map of Europe change when the UK leaves the European Union? I regretted it. I hate the fact that the UK is not a member of the EU. I hate it. It was their choice. We delivered on it. But I was worried before that there would be other countries that try to do the same. I think now nobody wants to go through what the UK did. Nobody. So if anything, the European Union map is stronger. And that's important. That's important for us to remember. With regards to 42.5 of the treaty, 42.7 and Article 5, Lena, there, first of all, two things. Any country in the world can apply to join the European Union, right? Turkey has been an applicant country since 1972. Moldova and Georgia applied last week. North Macedonia is on track. Albania too. I will give you the position of the European Parliament. European Parliament has always been very, let's say, open and inclusive, rather than exclusive. If you look back to Maidan, look it up, 2014, when you see whole squares with hundreds of thousands of people waving European flags, you look at yourself and say, I haven't seen so many European flags in my own country. That gives you a sense of perspective that these countries have and their people. And when I spoke to President Zelensky, the discussions that we had were about this. We already have Francois. Where is Francois? There you are, Francois. No, but then Vincent, who was there? Are you both next to each other? Okay, you moved. Ah, yes, you were there. So when you ask about sped up application, what do we do? What happens? Will other countries say anything? Will there be war in Europe? You know, there is war in Europe. The aggression was started when Russia invaded. I'm not going to apologize for defending Ukraine and for helping in any way for the war to stop. And I'm not going to stop that. That's why we adopted today a fourth package of sanctions. Do we make a distinction between NATO and the European Union? Of course. There are some countries that are neutral, militarily neutral, you know this. Some countries, even though they are militarily neutral, send humanitarian aid or participate in training or also welcoming refugees. So what we need to make sure is that we don't fall into the trap of saying, if we do this, would we have caused the war? We didn't cause this war. If you speak to the prime ministers or your colleagues, try to find friends who live in Estonia, Latvia, Lithuania. Any of you from there? No, but I have family. Where? In Estonia, Russia, and Ukraine. Ask them. Ask them. And what they will tell you is that we need to rely on 42.7. It's important. That is a sine qua non of being an EU member. So I would like to rely, I come from a country that is neutral. So I would like to rely on that article. But it takes long at the moment for logistical, supplies to get to Ukraine. So we also have to be better. If we're going to discuss a real security and defense union, we need to build on Article 42.7 and see where we are not ready yet. And when we do that, we need to be prepared to make difficult decisions, but that we have to make them now. Because if not, we will find ourselves in an even worse situation down the line, which we cannot explain. Is that enough? On membership, sped up? Aggression? Yes, I answered aggression.
Roberta, maybe I'd like to quickly come back to Emma's question. If I got you right, Emma, you will correct me if necessary. But I think you were also referring to the fact that Ukraine, to some extent, is a divided country. And traditionally, we know that the East tends to feel closer to Russia, the West tends to feel closer to the West or to EU, let's say. So we already know that there are regions that are fully controlled, one can say now, by what we might call separatists, for example, or by Russia now. If we think about peace, what could our strategy then possibly be?
We should work every day for the war to end. That's our goal. And that means negotiations, yes. With a gun to one of the guys' head? No. Do we do everything to de-escalate? Always. Always. With regards to your question on separatists and looking to the East, it is, I think, every country, and this is, I talk as a lawyer now, let me give you a legal answer, has a right to its independence and sovereignty. And to repeat, territorial integrity. And where that is not either guaranteed or not possible, it is our responsibility to help make it happen. What happened in 2013 and then 2014 was quickly forgotten in 15, 16, 17, 18, 19, 20, 21. Even though we were warned, it's going to get worse. I have friends and colleagues from former Yugoslavia, different countries, who tell you it took almost 15 months for Slobodan Milosevic to be removed. Do you know what the CNN effect is? That you watch a war, you read about a war, you know about a war for 3 months, and then you go on to the next issue. You don't want to watch it anymore. That's the risk we have, that. And you cannot stop making sure that we'll work every day for peace in Europe.
I'm sure we have many more questions. Yes, please.
We'll take more of them now. I have to go.
Would you like to come up? And this side as well. I saw somebody from this side. If you can also join us already. Yes. The floor is yours.
I'm sorry. My name's Emma.
Maybe you can just remove your mask just for the time.
Hello, my name's Emma, and we've been talking about making decisions on time now. And I feel like we've been recurringly seeing that decisions are being made too late with regard to the COVID pandemic as well as the war. And considering that we are mostly Ukrainians, Europe is experiencing the consequences of what is happening in Ukraine. And I watched a video about Zelensky stating that he warned about this happening previously. So why didn't we act in advance, for instance, in becoming less dependent on Russia's oil and gas imports, and even preparing Ukraine for this invasion? Thank you.
Thank you, Emma.
So hello, I'm Sam, and I'm quite active on Twitter, and I think that the Chancellor of Germany, Olaf Scholz, has said that he doesn't want to go into war, and he wants a diplomatic solution. And my question is, if you think that we should going to that we should have a diplomatic solution, or if we should go into war with Russia.
Thank you, Sam, for this question. No, it was very clear. Yes, please. Maybe one more question on this side as well, maybe from here.
Hello, my name is also Emma. I was wondering how the European Parliament is thinking of the nuclear threat that Putin stated, and how they're going to envision how to react, how to respond to the nuclear threat.
Thank you, Emma, for this very pertinent question. One last one, maybe for this round?
Is there an Emma there?
Yes. Actually, yes, a few. But I see this side is still stronger at the moment. Yes, please.
My son is called Luca, and he has many Lucas in his class, and he complains a lot. And I think of the name that everyone else is called.
Hi, my name is Caitlin.
Sorry, can you just repeat your name?
My name is Caitlin.
Caitlin.
Yeah. So we have talked a lot about helping Ukraine, but there are a lot of people in Russia that have not been heard, that don't support Putin. And I was just wondering, is there any way that we can somehow get these voices heard and help them?
Thank you, Caitlin. And I think there was one more. Yes.
Hello, my name is Franklin Howarth. We were talking a bit about what Article 42... Franklin. We were talking a bit about Article 42.7 and how the EU article states that we have to protect a country of our own. And I was wondering, out of personal interest, what do you think about the introduction of a stronger military alliance between EU countries as far as an EU army goes? Thank you.
Thank you so much, Franklin. I think we have 5 very challenging questions here. And can we have one more, Roberta? Will it be fine? Sure. Yes, please.
Right, at the bit, I've already stated my name. At the beginning, you spoke about how you saw Europe as one entity. I've actually also had very similar views. I've always seen Europe as one, well, not country, but as just one entity, so to say. And I've always dreamed about a federalized Europe. Do you think it will be possible, and do you think the creation of a EU army would be possible in the future?
You sure there's one more to throw in? Okay, so we'll take it one by one. Emma, you say we're too late. Yeah, you are right. Where are you, Emma? There you are. We were warned. We warned that we should become less dependent. We should have invested earlier in making sure that our renewables targets are achieved earlier. COVID pandemic did not help in these 2 years because priorities of governments was elsewhere. But if you ask me, as I said before, whether without the COVID pandemic and without a war would we be further and more advanced, I don't know. We now at the moment have a debate going on as to what to classify as clean energy. I was asked this a lot today. So for some countries, they would ask for nuclear to be declared as clean energy, not the yours. Others are reliant on gas and cannot afford to call it dirty energy because they rely on it, whole countries with tens of millions of inhabitants. Some countries are already very good with the amount of wind and solar and renewable energy, but it's not enough. And that means that we need to invest extremely heavily in our processes to either change the way we supply ourselves with energy, or with those islands, as we call them, not physical islands, but energy islands, we need to completely reconnect. I said before that there are some countries that are 100% reliant. Even for those countries, it will not happen tomorrow. There is a solution. And that is why the next step will be, can the price of energy be capped? Just like over the past 2 years, we've not looked at the economic indicators of the countries because everybody overspent and went over their obligations, sorry. So we were ready to do that because we were battling a pandemic. Are we ready to do that because we're battling a war and at the same time our people cannot pay their bills? We need to. So yes, we say we are too late. Yes, we say we should have done it earlier, but at the same time we say, let's make sure we get our act together now. Now. Not tomorrow, now. And what we've seen, the European Parliament has been, very efficient in this, is that where we want to be quick and we want to be strong, we can do it. When a vote takes place in 1 hour, it can be done in order for the assistance, financial assistance, to get to the recipients that are in need. So in the long run, yes, our energy map has to completely change, completely. But there are things that we can do already now in order for us to at least start to become less dependent on Russia. And if we don't do that, then what is the answer? We continue paying for it. But 3 weeks ago, within days, in some countries hours, you remember the call for take Russia out of SWIFT? Many people didn't know what SWIFT meant. Hours it took, and it happened, for Russian banks to be de-SWIFTed, which is another new word we say. And you know why I think that happened? Not because of governments, but because of public opinion, because of Twitter. Who mentioned Twitter? Vincent, who mentioned Twitter? You mentioned Twitter in regards to, because I wanted to join that with your question on Chancellor Scholz. You saw the change in the position on Nord Stream? Public opinion led that to happen. It was never possible before. Very strong coalition in the government that could change the position. And I understand that an act like that is enough to potentially mean that you can have a diplomatic solution. Am I being complicated? But, Chancellor Scholz said that when he met with his Turkish counterpart. And you know that the negotiations and the discussions between the Ukrainians and the Russians are taking place in Turkey. So there is an ongoing effort at all levels for a solution to be found. But we ask for a ceasefire, and we don't ask for a puppet government. It has to be, because then, what else do we have? On NATO and the nuclear threat, Emma, which Emma? You. That was very concerning. We understood it as being, there are different levels of threats, like you start by saying something and it's understood as that. So there are different levels, right? And we were expecting that statement to be made. And it's what triggers countries like Finland and Sweden to say, should we join NATO? That's what happened. What was the reaction? If Finland and Sweden join NATO, Russia will take that as a sign of aggression. So the invasion is not an aggression, but Finland and Sweden joining NATO is. And on this, about what we do in the European Union, first of all, it isn't nobody's interest to replace NATO to replace the EU with NATO. Who asked me about NATO? I can't remember anymore. Who asked me about NATO?
Franklin and Eric.
Franklin. Where is Franklin? And Eric, where are they? There. Right? Yes. Did she leave? No,
No, she's still here.
Oh yeah, you're right in front of me.
Row.
I'm so sorry. So, there is no discussion on the overlapping of what NATO does and what the European Union does. The reality is that a lot of European Union members are members of NATO, and they are in constant discussions together with non-NATO members who can act as observer because they are directly impacted. So Finland and Sweden are attending NATO meetings at the moment. In terms of the longer-term plan, we have been discussing about the concept of an EU army for many years. I was younger than you when we would discuss that. We should, I think, be ready to discuss everything. For me, nothing is off the table. I was present in the debates when we created European Coast Guard, which was seen as, we are joining forces. How did we do that? We got all our coast guards together to create an agency called Frontex, Frontier Exterior. And there we have an external border agency. It was done without changing the treaty, but by cooperation. And I think this is where we need to be quicker in reacting. We have different formats. So there's the EUMC, the European Union Military Committee. You have the External Action Service, we have like embassies in different countries that can be then rapidly react. And then we have how we interpret Article 42.7. And I can tell you that when there is, let's not talk about war, let's talk about a natural disaster. So floods in Portugal has happened. Fires in Greece in summer. What did the governments do? They sent help. That, for me, is what we call the first step towards strategic autonomy. And we do that, and it's one of the priorities of the current French presidency, is that when what happened in Afghanistan in summer, you remember, we were talking about Afghanistan until 2 months ago. Let's not forget that. The Taliban have destroyed the country. Okay? It is a catastrophe for women and girls in Afghanistan today. Catastrophe. What did we realize then? That the European Union needs to have its people to help. We cannot rely on other world powers anymore. It has to, and we have not mentioned China yet. We need to be with all our eyes open. We can say that, yeah.
Roberta, I think there was one more question by Kathleen, which we haven't touched upon yet.
Helping Ukraine, don't support Putin. Yeah.
I think it was also about helping Russians
yes.
within Russia who
don't support Putin.
Who don't support the Kremlin, yes.
So I mentioned the over 15,000 Russians who are in prison before, simply because they held a banner saying "Stop the war." We are very, very concerned about the disinformation and propaganda campaigns that are used to disseminate information. I have spoken in the parliament officially with a direct message to the Russian people who do not support Putin, because I think in the end that they could save this war. But you are right, we don't talk enough about it. And we are not sending the clearest of messages there. And it needs to be better. I will do that with what we do next week as well. Although it's still Tuesday, right? Yeah, tomorrow, not today. Okay.
Roberta, do we have time for maybe a final round, or even, because there are...
You see those guys behind you all shaking their head, but it's okay, we can ignore them for a few minutes.
A few minutes? Okay, we do
2 minutes.
one.
Tom, is that all right? Look at Tom back there, he's from Luxembourg. No, he's not from Luxembourg. He's British, but he married a guy from Luxembourg, so now he's Luxembourg.
I'm sure it's not a no, from what I can see.
Can I say that, Tom? You don't
But
shaking.
now, of course, we have many, many questions, it seems. Maybe those who have not yet asked a question, could you come up first? Yes, please. Iona, have you asked a question? I'm not sure, so maybe you would also like to. You can already come up, so we save some time. What about this side? Yes, please. Let's go.
Hi, my name is Henrik.
Henrik?
And President Zelensky...
Could you maybe just remove your mask just for the time of asking your question?
President Zelensky and many supporters of the Ukraine have asked for a no-fly zone to be established over Ukrainian airspace. Is the European Union willing to enforce and activate such a no-fly zone to aid the Ukrainians in the defense of their country?
Thank you, Henrik, for this very precise question. Oh, now we have 3 challenges on this side this time. Yes, please.
We've been asking them to ask questions. Now ask.
Hello, my name is Sophie. This question isn't war-related, and I wanted to say that I assume that as a woman, your path to getting where you are today and becoming who you are now has maybe not been as easy or not necessarily more difficult, but just a bit different than the one from someone of the opposite sex. So my question would be, what advice would you give young women pursuing a career in your field in politics or just in general?
Thank you so much, Sophie. And let's go back to this side. Iona?
Well, my question is a little bit more complicated. It's on the rule of law, so if the others have questions on the... Okay, well, firstly, my name is Iona, and my question was rather on how the EU wants to tackle the financial and political corruption of the member states breaching the rule of law as they are prioritizing their national law over EU law, clearly ignoring our values of the EU. And there's also, they're benefiting from the insufficient response of the Bloc 3 governing body. So how should we tackle this? Because, again, the topic has been ignored since the war has started. And I still think it's highly important because there are many countries breaching the rule of law constantly. It's a bit more tricky. That's why I offered. Thank you.
I think our time is running. It's okay?
So my name is Zoe, and I wanted to ask, the Ukraine is a potential candidate to the European Union, and in how far does that help the Ukraine in the current situation?
Could you just repeat your name, please? Zoe. Okay, thank you. And 2 short questions.
So my name's Tom, and I would like to talk about Nord Stream 2. There have been lots of plans over the years to build Nord Stream 2 from Russia to Europe. How have those plans changed, or have they fallen through due to this new war? So, yeah, thank you.
Thank you, Tom. And our last question for today.
My name is Andrea, and my question is related to Sophie's question, actually. Do you think women have gone as far as they can in the fight to close the gender pay gap in Europe?
Okay.
Thank you.
Anything else? Okay.
Well,
so. Emil.
Hello again. Yes, I would have one last question. We've been talking about media a lot, and I'm meant to ask you what you think the power of media should be in Europe. If we should regulate it more or keep it free, and what we should do because it's a fourth power that's uncontrolled. Thank you very much.
Okay, so I'll join Iona,
yes.
and Emil's question, because I think they're a little bit connected. First of all, financial and political corruption. We have a lot of it. Just by seeing how many boats were confiscated belonging to oligarchs, how many passports have been sold to so many people who have been sheltered in our union, who like to buy football clubs and have been celebrated. I think one of the biggest challenges we have in the European Union is that it's really difficult to become a member. We're putting all sorts of limits and conditions and conditions. Then you get in, it's okay, then you can do what you like. Who cares if women's rights are regressed? Who cares if journalists are killed, like Daphne Caruana Galizia was killed in my country in 2017, Jan Kuciak was killed in Slovakia in 2018. Who cares if you're an investigative journalist and you're a real... Am I being recorded still, you think? Is this recorded? Yeah, okay. A pain in the somewhere of a particular politician who doesn't like questions, you know? What do? You sue them in London, this is always the thing. It's impossible to defend yourself against a UK law firm with a huge sanction on or assets, freezing of your assets. We have a fundamental problem in Europe about this. Our journalists are under attack and under threat every day. Some countries better than others, but it's symptomatic of rule of law breaches Courts, we don't like this court, remove it. We don't like that judge, we make him retire. We don't like that newspaper, we close it. We don't like that religion, we ban it. It's happening in Europe, in our Europe. We don't like your sexual orientation, you can't come there. That happens in our Europe, and we need to fight back. The European Parliament is good at fighting back. We shout a lot. We have the rule of law conditionality. Do you know the concept of rule of law conditionality? Do you know that in the big financial package that we agreed on to help economies recover, we put in a condition that if you are found to breach the rule of law, you don't get that money. Why should we pay for someone's re-election campaign? Why should I pay for someone to make sure his or her cousins remain extremely wealthy for my taxes? You should ask these questions. Happens everywhere. So there we need to do much more. Our values are non-negotiable. Your values are non-negotiable, and they need to be protected. We don't have the best tools to do that. We need better tools. How does Ukraine membership help? It certainly gives those people who want to look to Europe as a way out for their country, Zoe, hope and perspective. I think the worst thing we could do is say, you know what, you fight our war. And continue to do that. Or you take all those hundreds of thousands of refugees and we'll throw some money at you. It's happening. People want that. I don't think that's Europe we should believe in. I think a Europe should be bolder, braver, inclusive, and gives countries that perspective that they so desperately need. And that's why I use this word perspective in order to align also with what President Zelensky tells his people when he addresses them. Did you see the people in Prague 2 Sundays ago in Czech Republic? Thousands and thousands of the street. This is amazing what has happened. And you have a president of another country addressing thousands and thousands. There is hope. And there is a sense of family, membership that we need to be able to give it. What happened with Nord Stream 2? What I thought would never happen. The way it was done is that the licensing has been suspended or frozen. In reality, the project cannot go on. But that was one of the biggest stumbling blocks, because this is a long-term project of the German government from many, many governments ago, in order to rely on a gas supply from Russia. Will it become cheaper? No. But it had to be done. And Chancellor Scholz was very courageous to do that, but also very open in his discussions when he did it and how he did it. Media, okay, now, women. No, no-fly zone, Henrik. Ooh, this is a NATO decision. Where is Henrik? There you go. In order for you to establish a no-fly zone, you need to have planes that are circling at the same time to deflect. That requires a huge military know-how, arsenal, and equipment between NATO countries. And that's why the discussion is where it's at. And there are things that we could say about the current. Okay. On career. Sophie, where is this? Yeah, Sophie and Andrea. Gender pay gap, we still have up to 17% in some countries. Can you imagine, in Europe, 17%? The biggest victims of the COVID pandemic were women, who became the caretakers of children and grandparents. And it is extremely hard for them to go back to work, in some cases, to find work. Or not to realize that when they go back, they are earning less than men for exactly the same job. I have 2 sisters who are scientists, both of them, academics, and they do, STEM. So one is a mechanical engineer. She teaches metal, completely different to me, and the other one is a neuroscientist. And they face massive challenges, even though they're at the top of their game. They have PhDs from the best universities. For politicians, two angles. One, it is harder. I was the first woman elected from Malta. Imagine, until I got elected, not one woman had ever been elected to the European Parliament. Since then, more than half of the elected MEPs have been women. We don't have any quota, any rules that tell you need to vote for women. But in the last election in 2019, my last election, every single party, the top scorer was a woman. When I first ran for elections, the questions used to be, you have these boys, they're 2 and 1. They're now 15 and 14. How can you manage? And I say, can you ask my husband that? Why asking me? They are with me. If you ask my boys today, they go, our mommy was always running around, running for some election or another. They're used to it. But I'm their mom, But I did it because I had parents who supported, and I now have a husband who supports me. So it's hard. But if I have to finish on one point, it took me 9 years to get elected. I ran first in 2004, again in 2009. So in 2004, I didn't get elected. 2009, I didn't get elected. And then my predecessor left. And 10 months before the 2014 elections, I got elected. And it was like, there's no way you're going to manage to get elected now. You have 10 months, what are you going to do? I got elected in 2014. And then in 2019, I got the most votes. Even in 2014, actually. But if someone asks me, you know what I answer? Do not give up. I could have given up in 2004, when I went home completely broke. And my mother told me, I told you so. In 2009, it was even harder because I ran the second time and I didn't get elected, and I had 2 kids. But then I did. And my father told me then, it took you 9 years to get elected, not bad. And it's easier once you get elected to get re-elected. So the biggest hurdle is the first time to get in. But then you have a responsibility to make sure that you are accountable for every vote. So in my case, I got 40,000 votes. Every one of those 40,000 people I meet, they go, oi, you told me this during the campaign. Rule of law, war, anything, migration. If you don't give up, and there will be many people who say, yeah, these women, we'll deal with it at the men. Ignore and continue. And never let anyone make you forget who you are or make you different to what you are and who you want to be. You are the masters of your life. And if you have a goal, just go for it. Just go for it. Or send me a message and I'll tell you what to do there. I have a lot of students in Malta who say, so how do I do this and how do I get this job? Just do that. Just go for it. Okay? Good? Don't give up, ever.
Let's express our warmest appreciation to Roberta for joining us today. It really feels like we could have continued for hours or days even, but let's hope we can continue the discussions in... Yes, we will stay and we will deliberate and we will come up with more conclusions for tomorrow morning and transmit them to Strasbourg straight away.
I wanted to tell you to study, of course, but don't forget to have fun. Sometimes I didn't study.
Thank you.
Come to Brussels, come to or Strasbourg, come to the European Parliament to see me.
Just a short announcement. There are many gadgets at the entrance, and I was asked to invite you to please, serve yourself.
She is